l'shas chayiv. It says, it's a Gemara, and everyone's talking about where's their raya, Bavli, Yerushalmi. He says, what if I could prove to you from somewhere in Bavli that the Mishkan is again, for lack of better English words, I might say temporary structure, but now you know what I mean when I say temporary structure. I mean not it's a temporary structure mitzad it's mahus. I mean a temporary structure mitzad that it's not going to be lasting. It's not going to, in English, I don't know, it's hard to find in English the words that would explain this. What? Short term, but it's not really short term because short term might be mitzad. It's even that's not good, right? Don't impress us with the English that you learned in high school, Rabbi Singer. I mean, come on. As I meinech, you know, what? Oh, don't with the African words. Not even okay. The kids are. Eines is in the chefza and eines in the gavra. Das is good. The oilam understands is good. If you understand that, it's also good. Okay. The kids are. But I might say the word temporary. Don't get confused. That's the reason I gave that akdama, because if I say temporary and in this nusach I mean temporary to mean one thing, I don't want anybody to be confused. Akopanim. So the binyan l'shah, he says, what if I could prove you that the Mishkan is a temporary structure? What if I could prove you the Mishkan's a temporary structure for somewhere else? Now, there's no question that we know that we learn out Boina from the Mishkan. That no one argues. We learn Boina from the Mishkan. So if I could prove to you from somewhere else in Shas, in Paiskin, whatever, that the Mishkan is an example of a temporary structure, right? Let's say I'd find the pasuk in the Torah. It said that the Mishkan was a temporary structure. So now I know. I learned from the Mishkan the rules of Boina. So now I know when I build for a temporary structure, so then that I'm going to be chayiv and a binyan l'shas chayiv. That's the math that he does. So he says, I have a Gemara Mefreshes. I have a Gemara Mefreshes. Not talking about Boina. That was the grace kite of the Nezer. He says, I have a Gemara Mefreshes. The Gemara talks about where do I know, Gemara and Shabbos, Tafayin Dalet, where do I know kosher in the Mishkan from? Now, that's Gemara discusses. Where do I know tying knots in the Mishkan? Where do I know the malach of tying knots in the Mishkan? So the Gemara says, I'll tell you where you learn tying knots. The Gemara says, you learn it because they used to tie down the ureas, the paroiches, whatever. They would tie down the ureas, let's say. Okay? They would tie down the ureas to the ground. So from there, I learn out the Mishkan, the malach of kosher, because in the Mishkan they had kosher. So whatever they had in the Mishkan, you have. So Gemara asks the kasha. In fact, that can't be the makor. And the Gemara goes on to say that's not the makor. The Gemara goes on to say the makor is from they used to tie nets to find the chilazin or whatever. In fact, the Gemara, I'll prove to you that can't be the makor. Why? Because the Gemara says because by kosher that everyone agrees. By boina there's a whole shot, but by kosher there's a rule that kosher can only be a long-term kosher. And this is a kosher amanas lahatir. That's what Gemara says. Gemara says you cannot possibly learn out kosher from the Mishkan because a kosher is only chayiv. The definition of kosher is when you're taking a knot and you're making something like a lasting relationship. So the Gemara says, but when you did it for the Mishkan, it was not a lasting relationship. It was only a kosher amanas lahatir. Sharei, they're not staying around by the Mishkan. It's something that's not going to be staying. So what did I just learn? So Derech Agav, the Gemara then goes on and says, therefore you have another makor for kosher. But if you're reading the Gemara well, what did the Gemara just say? The Gemara just said the Mishkan is an example of a temporary structure. Now, we definitely learn Boina from the Mishkan. So that you put A together with the B, you get right. So kosher taka amanas lahatir, I can't learn from the Mishkan because kosher must be not temporary. Kosher must be a permanent kosher, whatever that means. But by Boina, how do we learn Boina from the Mishkan? And the Mishkan is an example of a temporary structure. So binyan l'shah avi binyan. Do you love the Sagatravas now? Now do you understand why the Sagatravas were great people? So that's a raya. The binyan l'shah is a binyan, and the ma'aseh that's how we paskin. What's an nafkamina? We'll get to cases, but that's the nafkamina. That's a local ma'aseh. We paskin that binyan l'shah is a binyan. Derech Agav, with this Avnei Nezer, I'm a little bit. I guess a little bit navaich. I still like this. So, but is there anything under a binyan l'shah? Like you got to be like an epis, or let's say you have something which is even less than a binyan l'shah. For example, I saw in the Shiur Yankiv was the Levav Rav. He gave the haskama to the Ksais. So the Shiur Yankiv, he writes over there that these siman sometimes it's in Shin Gimel, Yadalit. That's what this one happens to be in Shin Tezvav Aleph, because we spoke over there. That's where the halachos of the Moisif ala binyan are. Over there, the Shiur Yankiv, he says, yeah, but let's say it's under a week. That's already. I'm sorry. Excuse me. This what I'm saying now is the Tiferes Yisrael. The Shiur Yankiv I'll say in a moment. Tiferes Yisrael says, let's say it's like under a week. It's under a week. That's already no. That's for sure not chayiv. If you build something for under a week, that's for sure not chayiv. Like you build a building for under a week, that's for sure. I don't know, where does it get that from? I don't even know where to begin. Where is it get? I can understand the concept of a week is something we find in halacha, right? We find it dafka by kosher grada, right? But you see these aren't connected, and it's no shaykhis, right? And then there's by Durabanans. Where does he get it? It's a Pelitic and Maisa. And more so, what, by the Mishkan? Were they in any places by the Mishkan? Should I give you guys homework or no? No, because you ask your wife, she'll probably know the answer to this question, right? Were there any places that they were in the Mishkan only for less than a week? What? Were there any places, you know? Yeah? So Rabbi Chodi says, yeah, right? Why'd you give me Coke? I don't know, Coke does what? What? Sorry? There's no, doesn't, you can't, how could you know which one to learn from? How can you say that? You can't do that. It doesn't work like that. So then each and every one was only oimid for an unlimited time. It was even unlimited even for one day. I think this raya is, I'll let you, you have a raya? That's also, but let's say there was a law, a Gzeres HaKosev, that God only made people travel after a week. So then maybe the whole Makor is from the Mishkan, and there was never a time whenever it was Nivna for less than a week. What? Sorry? That's interesting, right? That's not the raya I was thinking of. That's interesting, right? They picked it up and down every single day. That's interesting, right? What? What does he say? If it's Kama Yomin.
What about Sukkot?
You have to see, Tosefes might be different. What? So Sukkah we have to talk about because that's really the sugi of oil. And the Tolda of Boina, let me explain what I say. Maybe oil doesn't have this, maybe it's a Tolda, and maybe I don't have the same level of requirement of kvias when I'm building an oil. Because an oil is b'mahusa, a temporary structure. So maybe there, Taka, when I'll build an oil, a tent, maybe I won't have the same rules. Not every Tolda has the exact same rules as the Av. Right? Because it's true the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, right? But it's not muchach that the gedarim of oil and the necessity of kviyas are going to be the exact same gedarim. Maybe hagufa, that's the tolda. Maybe the tolda is that if you build an oil type structure, a tent type structure, so it's built with the parameters of what's the melechas machsheves of an oil, which is probably temporary also. That's a good catch. That's what the Tfers I saw in the Shiur Yankiv. He says even miyad. I think he's right. The Shiur Yankiv doesn't need my he gives some as the exercise. But the Shiur Yankiv says that even miyad, if you build a building, it could last, and you decide to take it down miyad or whatever. That could be a big. A lot of these things now sound like more in the theory and in the sugya. Very negaya. We'll see soon. So Allah Maisa, it's probably miyad. Listen. I must tell you, the Aruch HaShulchan, he also says a big chiddush here. The Aruch HaShulchan is in Katan Chav Aleph. He says it has to remain for at least Shabbos. Now, where'd that come from? Some of the Rambam, the Rambam that we spoke about yesterday, that Malacha Miskayemes b'Shabbos. He's learning that the Mishnah is not explaining that he did it on Shabbos, but it's a Malacha Miskayemes b'Shabbos, over the course of a Shabbos. But I tell you, it's a big chiddush. What? Come again? Yeah, you won't. Very good. Thank you, Rabbi Singer. Whatever you're not over, if this didn't have a shame of a baina, you're not over on a seiser either. Because it wasn't, you think you're seeing something that's built. You're not. Right? It was never, I tell you, the pashtus is if you go binyan l'shah is aser, then binyan l'shah is aser. And even if you built it for 1 minute, the binyan l'shah is going to be a chayiv. So that's number one. That's number one. That covers Rabbi say binyan keva, binyan arai, binyan l'shah. Right, now, there's two last things here, which these are the biggest things when it comes to Negeya, to donning these shilas, which we'll try to get to now, is there's another nusach that comes up here all the time in the Paiskim, okay? It's one in Rishon and Tess. Yeah, I'll read it to you. In Rishon and Tess, they used to have like these ovens that in order to make the heat stay in the oven, so how would they keep the heat to stay in the oven? They would put cement around. All these Gemaras talk about tit and all these cements that they were doing. It was obviously some type of a glue or whatever, something, etc. And they would seal the door, and that would make it that the door, I guess, the heat wouldn't come out or whatever. And this was a very normal thing. Now, they all talk about breaking the cement. They would cement around the door, and then they would break the cement. Okay, now these ovens were either very big or they were attached to the ground, and they had a din of karka. This is baina b'karka. We're in real baina now, not in. So comes again the Shulchan Aruch with that hakdama. Now read this in the Shulchan Aruch. This is based on a Gemara. And it's really based on the Trumas Tedeshin, but I'm saying it's all a good point. So Trumas Tedeshin says like this: Tanner, this is Shulchan Aruch, Reish and Tesiv Zayin. Tanner shemenichim bayachamin. The tanner, this is the halachas over here. We're talking about Bishul on Shabbos, and then over here the halacha is that if you have a tanner that you put inside the cholent, v'sais min piv, and you close it up, b'daf, v'sorkin, oisay b'tit. You push it smooth out. They had some type of a cement that they would put around the door. Now this was cemented shut. You cemented something to the door. So it says it's mutter list store this on Shabbos. You're allowed to break this on Shabbos. Now so what's this? You're allowed to take cement and put it onto a building and break it on Shabbos. This is not kalim, this is karka. So I just put cement on the karka. So you're allowed to break this on Shabbos. Why are you allowed to break this on Shabbos? So the Mishnah Berurah says, Ein zeh stiras binyan, even the Rabbanon. Mishnah Berurah said, "Kativ your test." Why? It says Mishnah Berurah, "Kevan shaloi nasa lekiyim klal." Now, what's this? What is this? No, what is this? Anybody know? I just ask, like, what is this? It's not nasa lekiyim klal. What is it? What?
Just to seal the cap.
It seals it shut. Wait, we just learned a minute ago that if I build a building, or any building, it sounds scary when you say a word of building, right? When I build anything and it's something that could last, so then when you go and take that thing and you break it down, so then you're over on baina. That's binyan l'shah. We said also that if you have something, could this thing, mitzad atzmai, could this last forever? Of course. If you take that cement and you leave it there, of course it'll last forever. There's no question in the world. It's cement. Right? You try to open it now without breaking the cement, and you can be able to. Not. Maybe Rabbi Weiss with those muscle. What? What? Don't mind. I don't care why. So what? What? Come again? Say again. So. Okay, so that's Rabbi Markovitz is saying, you have to see if this fits into the words of Mishnah Berurah. But Rabbi Markovitz is saying, what's the aleph base of baina? This is like, got to go to the aleph base. What's baina? Baina means you're making a oneness. Now, if I would be making a oneness over here, taking cement and putting it around my oven, and I made a oneness that this oven door is going to be closed forever, so then I have broken oven. When you see the cement there, you see it as a broken oven. This is where you see the shenkite of the svaras of baina. But baina is, you have to have a lot of seichel, you have to have a lot of logic when you're learning baina. It's not a gemara. This was pashut to the Rishonim, that if I have cement and I put it, hagam, it can last l'olam v'ad. Hagam, binyan l'shah is chayiv, right? But by Marco, it says, listen, if I have a building here, is there anything that's mechayiv the destruction of this building? For example, let's say I build it and there's a big sign here that says that any building that's built over here will be demolished within 3 days. Okay, that's an external knowledge. But it's not mitzad the chefza, that there's something mitzad the chefza, which is mimchayiving that it won't remain as a one. So he says that this is different. Over here, when you have a cement, which is around the oven door, if that oven door is going to remain closed forever, so you have broken oven, you don't have it. We don't see a binyan here. This is a different concept. And this is, I guess, what the Mishnah Berurah is calling over here. He uses these words. He calls it loy nasa l'kiyim klal. I guess that's what the Mishnah Berurah means over here. It's called loy nasa l'kiyim klal. No, Stam, should I tell you what's an afkamina? It's like nasa l'kiyim klal. You see it, it's like something that's, so it's interesting. The Ramah goes on over here, and the Ramah says, you should know, yesh machmirim, shaloi listor estimas atanar atoch batit alidei Yisrael. This svara that we're saying is very nice svara, but the Ramah says, you know what? Some people, they don't hold to this svara. And you just put cement on the door. No, because don't think, Rabbi Markovitz, don't think this is such a pashut svara. The Ramah comes along, he says, you should know that those that are machmir, and they say, if you have cement on this door, so then you're not supposed to open. What are you supposed to do? But you got to eat, right? It's without the cholent, it's not good. So what are you going to do? So the Ramah says, okay, so you have to get either a goy or a cotton, or the Yisrael should do it with a shinoi. Okay? So they hold that there's, I guess, they agree it's not the rice or something, but it looks like a stira. Looks like you're doing stira. Looks like you're doing stira, right? So, what's the nafka of this? Just, again, I keep on telling you little hints of all the shilas we're going to don. But like, for example, let's say someone wants to don the shilah of Lego. Lego is always the perennial shilah, but you want to don the shilah of Lego, right? So you want to know, can a kid play Lego on Shabbos? I mean, most of the adults are, even if they would play, but most of you are not going to admit it, right? So most of the shilah only is on kids and whatever. So can a kid play Lego on Shabbos? So if I had to point to a seif in Shulchan Aruch, I might point to this seif. I might say, well, what's the most that Lego can be? What's the most Lego can be? Is Lego meant to be a binyan? Is it meant to be a binyan? So let's think, right? Like I said once, if Lego would be a binyan, you'd have broken Lego, right? When you can't get that piece out, So then that's broken Lego because it's unusable. Lego, the whole purpose of Lego. Now there might be a different child of Lego, Derech Agav, Maimar Mosga. Lego, if you're making a sculpture of the Lego, you're making it into a something, that might be a problem of Kaisiv on Shabbos. That might be a problem making a Nafkamina is Rabbi Falk, Zechat Tzadik Levrach, he told us once in the sukkah that if you're making the gas, who knows what I'm talking about? You're making the gas station. Anybody getting nostalgic or getting upset? My parents didn't buy it for me. If you're making the gas station and you're making the car and you're using it, so then the only thing you could be over on is baina. So if I'll show you today, it's not baina, you're not over. Because there, it's not the sculpture, you're actually using it. If I'm just making something that you should look at, it prevents something of kaisiv. But don't you understand the beauty of Shabbos now? What? Oh, so could be over. No, sorry, could be over. Could be by. But wait, but if I could prove to you that there's no baina, so then at least we could play with the fire engine. Why would there not be baina? So right away, before you begin, you have to don this svara that Rabbi Markowitz is saying that maybe the Pshat Mishabura. It's a shtick Lego is something that you can't see a oneness over here. So somebody wants to know, am I allowed to play Lego on Shabbos? I'm going to tell him, the Shulchan Aruch, if he's a Sephardi, right? If he's a Sephardi, so then maybe, because the Shulchan Aruch allowed this type of svara. If he's an Ashkenazi, I'm going to say, who's it for anyways? A kid. We find already that kids can rely on this svara. It says over here, you can do it on your dad cotton. So a child can rely on the svara that Lego you don't see as a kiyum klal. I said this in a shul on Shavuos night, like 2 years ago, I think it was. It couldn't be last year because last year in Corona, I don't think I gave a shiur. So it must have been 2 years ago. And I gave a shiur to kids on Shavuos and Shavuos all the night. And I said the svara, and there was a big machlekes there. There's a big machlekes. Some of the kids were saying that it's not true. You leave it around for a long time. And
why is it not funny? People build Lego.
What?
People build these huge Lego things and they leave it there forever.
No, that's only in Lego land. We spoke about it. That's only in Lego land. What?
So some people have Lego land in their house.
It's okay. It seems to be that, listen, you are closer to that age than I am, right? So it seems to be that you might know more than me. It's possible. So Mameli, he says that Rabbi Friedman would like us to know that when he builds with Lego, it's a shor and a matziv, right? He could leave it around for a long time. God, how long does a person talk and leave it around for, right? Well, it's made to break, but
Your younger sibling comes and wants to
He told me something similar to it. It's interesting that you're mamish makavin. No, you see different cultures, the 5 towns and Bnei Brak and whatever. It's like, he said like this bacher, well now this younger man, but this little Ingle, he says to me that no, the pshat is be'etzem mitzidi, I would keep it forever. And he said it like with fingers, and I would keep it forever. And then boom, sometime it comes, it's not there anymore. Somebody broke it. Like it's a thing, no, it's no joke. It's like very serious. Also, there's another thing you have to think about. Maybe the svara that we're saying over there is only in Seiser. You're going to see this a few times. Here we're talking about breaking that it can't be a 1. So you want to know, am I allowed to break it? Did anybody ever say I could take the cement and actually put it on Shabbos? Maybe the Mechsi Kabainas are worse than the Mechsi Kasaisers. Because we're going to see it 3 times this svara is over. When you're destroying something, so then this destruction has to have a shame ticken on it in order to be chayiv in the first place. So baina, I could definitely hear maybe that baina is something that has a mechsi, because it certainly looks like baina, especially if the Olam is telling me that I might not be right in the Metzias. Mashenke, the nafkamil will be to break down maybe to break the Lego is a different shmooze. When I'm breaking this, is that a mechsi kisaiser? Did it look like I broke something which is supposed to be together? That's the need over here. So I'm not sure. But again, Mitzvah Shem, we're going to don these shadows a little bit stronger. But this is come again. Correct. Okay, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. What? But if that would be the derech, then it might be a mechsi kabayna. We're not dealing with the rices probably, but that'll be a mechsi kabayna. Certainly looks like he's making a bayna. Rabbi Falk, he took very strong the svara that I'm saying now. He went very strong with this. The only problem he ever had with Lego was the aspect of the kaisif. Ironically, but okay. A component that's that. Okay. Now, Maisa. Yeah. Just make a spaceship and you keep it there forever. Yeah. I feel that for the Olam, this is very therapeutic. Like a piano. Hey, he's not breaking it down very fast.
It doesn't work with the piano, but it
You can play with it. It makes a noise.
The buttons, no, just the buttons. You push the buttons. It doesn't make any noise. You push the buttons. He is not taking their part anytime soon.
No, but he's going to realize it doesn't make noise. All right, listen, no, it's no joke. And that would anyways be a sculpture.
But it's not.
It would also be a sculpture, right? He's not using it.
No, he uses it.
Oh, Mamish uses
Yeah,
it.
he plays with it.
Someone should tell him that. Shane, by side. But once again, the Aruch HaShulchan, he says a different shot in this halacha, not like the Mishabura. He says, you know why this is mutter? You know what the Aruch HaShulchan says? The Aruch HaShulchan says, you know why it's mutter to break open the oven? Who knows what the Aruch HaShulchan says? Because it's not going to be there for the whole Shabbos. It's the same Aruch HaShulchan. Aruch HaShulchan doesn't make two dinim like I'm making over here, all different dinim. Aruch HaShulchan goes, this is taka binyan l'shah. Binyan l'shah for 24 hours is a problem. Under 24 hours, it's not a problem. I said the number 24 hours now. I don't take responsibility for that. We'll see. That might change. The Aruch HaShulchan says for Shabbos, but whatever that is. The kids are for very, very short term. It's definitely not a binyan l'shah. That's the Aruch HaShulchan. Mishabura does not say that. This is the raya that the Mishabura doesn't hold of that svara. Because over here, the Mishabura had a much easier teretz. He could have just said, "Wow, that's not a binyan," because you don't have to make up this thing. Ain't also the key implied. Just say it's under 24 hours and game over. So the Mishabura doesn't seem to hold of this. It seems to be just one moment. It seems to be that it's surah is muchach, that this thing is not a lasting structure, and that is a very important svara that you're going to see in Baina. Okay, Bez Hashem. What? I told you, once you get all these svaras, then we're equal. Then it's like Yehudim over here. What? Come again? According to Aruch HaShulchan, it wouldn't matter what it looks like. According to Aruch HaShulchan, are you allowed to build Lego for less than 24 hours? According to Aruch HaShulchan, yeah. Right? If you have Lego that you play with just on Shabbos and you break it down because your mother doesn't let you, leave it a week or whatever, right? I hope everyone's okay. If that's the case, according to Shulchan's mother. So another thing, if the kid tells me, can I build Lego? I'll say, look, if you break it down within 24 hours, there's a lot to be saying. Number one, you're a kid. Number two, under 24 hours, you have the Aruch HaShulchan. Number three, you have the fact that maybe the entire heft is not something that's made to last. Okay, but then we have to find out if he's doing it to make a sculpture, if he's using it to use, and whatever. Now, there's another Mishnah Berurah. I learned this idea from a different Mishnah Berurah. There's a Mishnah Berurah we spoke about way back when we were in a different neighborhood even. In the Mishnah Berurah, in Siman Shin Mem, it's not going on the Sugya Bayna B'chlal. A lot of these Sugyas are by side, the Svaras are related. Toifer is taking two pliable items and putting them together. That's Toifer. I could take two pieces of paper, I glue them together. I wasn't Toifer on Bayna, I was Toifer on Toifer. That's probably the difference between Bayna and Toifer, says the Bir Allah and Siman Shin Mem. In Shin Mem, I'm taking, in Bayna, I'm taking together two objects which are not pliable and firm objects, and I'm putting them together, and that might be Bayna. But Mashenkin, when I take two pieces of paper, I take two begodim and I sew them together. Then that was going to be Toifer. It's a different malacha. And the opposite of Toifer is going to be Kareya. We're going to dan, there's some interesting people. Weird, for lack of a better word. Like I open everything on Shabbos. Right? I open everything. Everything. He opens everything on Shabbos. Right? Open everything. Open my mouth on Shabbos. Everything I open on Shabbos. Right? But the Maisa, there's 150 different shilas on every single item. Right? So one shilah is boina, and one shilah is soiser, and one shilah is kareya, and one shilah is makabit patish, and one shilah is daber dover, and everything in the world. Right? Moichik and mechatich and this. So you have to get good the gedarim of what's boin and what's soiser, right? And Punktu happens to work out that I open everything on Shabbos, right? Well, why is that? Because again, I'm going to tell you certain svaras now from Korea and Toifer. We're going to down on a package. What's the nidin when you're opening a bag of potato chips on Shabbos? What's the nidin? So some place can say the nidin is, are you being soiser or clear? Ramosha says that's not the nidin. That's not the nidin. The nidin is something else. We have to see what the nidin is. But you understand, this is very important to get these gedar. So over here, the Mishnah Berurah, he talks about what happens if you have a piece of the bencher gets stuck together, let's say. Okay, how does it get stuck together? How does the bencher get stuck together? What falls on it? The Mishnah Berurah had wax that was fall. What falls by us? Chalent can fall, or grape juice can fall. What else can fall? A lot of things can fall. Right? If it falls taka on a letter, it could be a big problem, right? Because it falls on letter. So now when you want to take it apart, you're being meichik, you're being koisiv kilu that letter, because until now that letter was covered stark. I mean when it's really stuck or whatever. But until now that letter was covered stark, and you revealed the letter. That might be koisiv. Shabbat is all needed about this. But the only thing bothering the Mishabura is what? Is moiche koisif if the piece of wax fell on the actual letter. So there's a bigger problem over here. What if the piece of wax fell between the two pieces of paper? Now the two pieces of paper are glued together. So why is that? If I take a piece of glue and I glue together those two pieces of paper, am I over on Teufer? Of course. You're over on gluing on Shabbos. And when I take it apart, I did it on purpose and I take it apart. Am I over on Korea? Of course you're over on Korea. There's no question in the world that I'm over on Korea. So then what's this? If a piece of glue or a piece of chocolate or a piece of the grape juice or whatever falls into the bencher is now stuck together. It says in the Mishnah, you're allowed to open it on Shabbos. It's not a problem. Why? It's good kasha. Mishnah is a kasha. Of course it's good kasha. Mishnah says like this. He says, okay, if the iris were dvukim, then you're chayiv gon kareya. If you take two pieces of leather or paper or whatever, you glue them together, chayiv. Says the Mishnah, aval heicha shenidbeku adapim ladadi al yidei shaiva. Let's say it's wax in those days, especially with the books. So they used to glue in the binding and whatever. So it got together and it closed the book. Don't confuse this with, sometimes the book that we have is just not cut. And you have to cut it, and that's not going to patish mamish. You're cutting the book, and it's kareya, it's maka patish, it's everything. It's possible b'chalav, whatever you want. But it says here, you're allowed to open this. And he sends you to Sif Shin Yud Dalet Sif Yud. Does anybody know what Shin Yud Dalet Sif Yud is? Let's see. What does it say over there? What's Shin Yud Dalet Sif Yud? What's Shin Yud Dalet Sif Yud? So over there he has a case like this. Now look at that, unbelievable. In Shin Yud Dalet Sif Yud, he has the same halacha that he has in Reish Nun Tes Sif Zayin. Unbelievable, the exact same halacha. Over here he talks about that mitam zeh, at the end of the sif, if you have a piece of cement that you cement around the oven, it's mutter to open up the oven because it's not nase l'kiyim klal. So look at that. So Mishabura is telling you, if you want to understand why when glue falls in between two pages of a bencher and glues the bencher shut, but you didn't do it on purpose, it just happened on its own, that he says in Mishabura, you're mutter to open it. Why? Because in Shin Yud Dalet Sif Yud, when you have the cement on the oven, you're allowed to open it. Why? And he brings this svara, Kevan de loynase l'kiyim. Even a kal v'chaymer. Over there, it's not done l'kiyim. Over here, it's not done b'miskavin, and therefore, it's no shayches. No, I ask you a kasha. According to the Aruch HaShulchan, does this make sense? The Aruch HaShulchan told me everything is totally in under 24 hours, right? What's that have to do with 24 hours? It's a piece of cholent that's been on this bencher. It's been here since when Noach got out of the teva, and he brought with him Yana bencher. This has been there for more than 24 hours. What are we talking? It's not to do with 24 hours. Shabura is saying, I'm telling you a whole new svara. This sounds like your svara, maybe, I don't know. Maybe he's saying an old svara. When I have something, like what's our example? Our example is I have a cement that goes on an oven. There's no oneness here. It's not nasa l'kiyim. There can't be a oneness over here because it'll be a broken oven, or maybe for a different reason, but it's borrowed, there's no oneness. It's here something that its whole entire chefts is mechayiv, a breaking, so there's no one. It's lacking in the aleph beis of boina. Well, the usage, the inability of usage is the praba, is the siman kilo, the explanation of why it can't be that this is one, that this cement is one, and that I won't be allowed to break this. Right? Because otherwise the thing will be broken, I won't be able to use it. Right? So the Mishabura is stealing the svara. And Mishabura, what's the aleph beis of toifer? It's the same type of idea. When is something toifer? When I take two things and I put it together and there's a oneness. So says the Mishabura chiddush. This part's the chiddush. That part was, Mishabura seems to say the opposite. He says, say, just like I understand that when I put cement, even when I do a bedafka, there's no oneness because it's something that it's clear can't remain like that because you'll have broken your item. So says the Mishabura, so too, when you take when you didn't do anything and it happened on its own. When you have a bencher and the glue fell on its own or the cholent fell on its own. So how could you say there's a oneness? That's the chiddush of the Mishnah Berurah. Even though we would have thought, what do you mean? Of course you could say it's a oneness because it happened and now it's one, right? But the answer is the Mishnah Berurah is, no, you can't say oneness. Now I'm a subject. Maybe the Mishnah Berurah means it's not a oneness because everyone that sees it knows you have ruined bencher also. Maybe that's what the Mishnah Berurah, I never learned this shot before. When we learned Taifer, I didn't learn like this. But now that I see the Mishnah Berurah compares it to the case of Shin Yud Daled, so maybe let's read the Mishnah Berurah. It's loy nasa l'kiyim klal, Kol shekain here was done below miskavin. So he says, he says, this isn't anything to do with toifer. Toifer is when you have something that is glued b'kavana b'dafka to make a oneness. But when something falls in between two pages, is there anybody here that sees a oneness? When you have something, it would ruin the bencher. At least in the bencher, we all understand it, right? When you come back to us, then this is a very, very big svara, very big svara. This is a very big svara. What? Okay. Yeah. That's right. That was meant to be open. That's because you wanted it closed for the time being. It's very different. I don't want my bencher closed for the time being. What do you mean? I can't read koyach. Nobody knows koyachs of balpeh. You know, nobody even knows how to sing it, even when you have the bencher in front of you. You know what I mean? Everyone knows what I mean, right? I don't know how it took off such a niggin when nobody knows singing it. But what? Sorry. Come again? No, but you just said there's no way that you want it to be one. Of course not. You don't want it to be what? You won't be able to use it. No, but here, no. What? But there's a very big difference. He's asking, there's going to be a whole big shilas about bags and whatnot, that you close them and you want them closed for a short amount of time. So there's a svara that the Mefarshim explain that when I close a bag, it's indefinitely closed. It could remain like this for a long time. It can remain like this, and it will serve as a function for a long time. So that we understand. If I say, everyone understands you have a bag of potato chips, there's a very big mila that it can be closed, and it can be closed like this for a year, and I might be happy about that, right? By an oven, it's borrowed that I don't want it for a year. So you know what the chalent will look like if it would be there for a year? We had over here. Don't remember last month? No, the new guys don't know. Remember, there was like a tree growing out of that thing, no? So you understand what I'm saying, yeah? Okay. Boss? Why isn't that right against Yerka Shulchan? But why isn't there? Why didn't Shiur just say, "I'll take"? You know, the grass does. Why doesn't he just say? Because it hasn't been there for 24 hours. Just say it's simple. You mean maybe? I'm sorry. You're right. Maybe we're talking about where Taka was. I mean, who knows? What? I mean, maybe we have to come on to a new start anyways. That could be. Yeah, that could be. It could. But the only thing is, it's. Over here maybe, but why did he have to come onto the new svara? I don't know if it's easier. Is it easier? Should I tell you now? Let's say this guy, he wants to have like a real chalent, you know? That's time, you know, like mamish, right? So Thursday night, he already makes the chalent. And he said, and this challenge, when is he going to eat it? This is miyachid Thursday night, and he's going to eat it Shabbos morning, and it's going to be brown and chalented. So then, according to Halachos of Bishul, is he allowed to open up the door? It says it's more than 24 hours. According to Mishabur, is he allowed to open the door? Yeah. It's bayah, right? What? No, Halachos of Bishul would not say yeah. That was 5 yards. Well, Halachos of Bishul should have said that. It's a tremendous nafkamina. A place like 2-day Yom Tov, these things are very big nafkaminas. Halachos should have said something, right? You're in big trouble, right? You can get out of it now if you're okay. But you understand or no? Then you're in big trouble. No? Boss? The guy doesn't say what he said. He doesn't say Shabbat. He doesn't say 24 hours, guys. He says that it will be miskayim. What's the lashon tag? Anybody have an Halachos in there? You have Halachos? Let me know. Thank you so much. Oh, I should have asked for Mashiach. Where is it? They told us. No, it's not the one. Is it? No, this is Siv Gimel. What are you doing to me? What? Where? No, but I need the one on Siv Chaf Aleph. Siv Chaf Aleph, I need. Shin Yud Gimel Chaf Aleph. No, Shin Yud Daled. Siv Kotin Chaf Aleph. Or Shin Yud Gimel Siv Chaf. Yeah, Shin Yud Daled Chaf Aleph. Is it? Okay. So he says, where is she? Here. No. Here. Dafka kishasi lekayim amnas shloila sira b'Shabbos. Avlim eina asi lekayim klal. Mutter. B'times that mutter l'hatzir dafshim tzachad. Sheina asi lekiyim. He's talking about our case. The kisheina asi lekayim af yoim echad. He says yoim echad. I made a mistake. He says yoim echad. Loi mikri binyan. It's not called a binyan if it's not there. It's not there. Either Yerushalmi binyan l'shah, ze'al kapanim liyoim echad v'loy pachas misa. You should be arrested. No? Upachas miyoim shalim lo yaisach haniyasam. So that's what Halachos says. He says you never found that God made them move from the Mishkan less than a day. That you never found. They got a shachris mincha and ma'ariv, Rabbeinu Tam. But they never got kicked out after a day, before a day. So that's the answer to our question, no? And now you know that they never got kicked out more than that. I guess it's good for me to read the Halachos before the Shiur, no? He says it's a version pasuk in the Torah. Remember I said to the island before that I think there's a raya from the Torah, and I told you should ask your wives. This is the pasuk I meant. This is the pasuk I meant. Doesn't it say a version in the Torah? You should all be ashamed of yourselves. No? It's a version pasuk in the Torah. Am I making you feel bad? That's unbelievable. How do you guys not know Chumash? That's unbelievable. You said this pasuk? You didn't say which one. I could also do that. It says in Parshas Baloischa, Avagav Disli. Say right. Oh no, it just went black. Those lives matter. Avagav Dichsev v'yesh asher yeh anan me'erev ad haboker. He says, Ach mistama b'layla lo yamidu ha'oilim v'lo pirka matzayis ad haboker mikol malka v'tzarchi. All right, Shane, it's getting a little bit. Here you go. But you see, it's a big problem, the Halachos, right? According to the Halachos is saying the only heter to open, no, Baisa, this is very serious. According to the Halachos, the only heter in the world to open up this oven is if you did it for less than 24 hours. Yom Shalem, no? Big Bayan. I don't know, I never thought about this before, but okay. So those are the klalim. There's one more word here in the Mishnah Berurah. I have one more. So what do we have so far? We have binyan l'shah, we have binyan keva, obviously, we have binyan arai, whatever that is, and now we have an einam eskayim klal, which is a gevaldik alimud, this einam eskayim klal business, this new Mishnah Berurah. We have the concept of under 24 hours, okay, that we're always going to have to put in our back pocket. It's going to come up over and over again, this 24-hour business. But, I'll give you an example. Rabbi say, the Balatanya says, you know why you're allowed to open up a bottle on Shabbos? I'm not talking about the Shiloh bottle caps, which breaking, that's something else. He wants to know why in the world you're allowed to open up the screw on the bottle cap, right? It's already open, this one, right? Here. No? Here. Now it is. That's one Shiloh on Shabbos. Okay. Frekta Balatanya, this is now closed, okay? Why am I allowed to open this on Shabbos? Why am I allowed to open this on Shabbos? What's the Shiloh? Is there anything tighter than this? Right? This thing is very, very, very tight, no? What? It lasts forever like this. It's tight as anything. It's a screw, right? It lasts forever. This thing is tight like anything, right? So why am I allowed to open it? So you know what the Balatanya answers on this kasha? I remember I told you, binyan b'kelim, if something is tight, there is binyan b'kelim. Of course there's binyan b'kelim. If something is tight, there's binyan b'kelim. It's only by karka that we've been saying that you don't need tight. And it's enough just if it slips in and out, if that's its normal surah and things like that. But binyan b'kelim, it's tight. This is tight again. There's nothing tight in this. It's just as tight as the screw in your glasses. By some of us, it's even tighter, right? You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? So no, you know what I'm talking about. So besides, what's the reason why you're? So you know what the grass says? The grass says, "Oh, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because it's for under 24 hours. It's for under 24 hours. Really? Who drinks wine? Who drinks the grape juice during what? Liquid gold? Who's opening up a kedem in the middle of the week and taking? What would you have mother give us? Ask what? What are you crazy? You imagine like when she's not looking, she's walking there. Oh no, and you turn, it's him. It's my brother. I didn't do it, right? Right? Imagine what would happen if you take a cup of kedem in the middle of the week. She'd kill you, right? You know exactly what I'm talking about, right? Does anybody open up that bottle during the week? Anybody? So it's not for under 20. I don't know what was going on in Lubab. What was the Valentine you talking about? What were they doing over there? They were drinking during the week. What were they doing over there? No? What? Sometimes it gets us, That's right. What were they doing? No, but you understand what I'm saying? Rabbi said, today we're not being kaveh al-halacha, we're just getting the svaras. But you understand, this is going to be a very big shaila. How in the world are you allowed to open up a bottle of grape juice on Shabbos? People think the shaila is making the cap. Well, we have much bigger problems, right? You can open it, right? So we know, according to the Mishabura, these kashas aren't going to start, right? If I say Nishtan, according to the Mishabura, there's no oneness over here. There's no oneness over here. That'd be called a broken bottle. When I closed it and I can't open it, it's not like Nasa Lakim Klal. That's not called Lakim Klal. You understand what I'm saying? That's a whole different world. Boss? Say. Yeah, Pesach whiskey could be actually Pesach whiskey. Yeah. It's Kinderlach. There's one more lashon you find here in the Paiskim, and this gives, I think, the finale of the whole picture over here. The one last lashon you find over here, Rabbi said, the one last lashon you find over here in the Paiskim is in Shin Gimel. I'm just quoting from Amish Debrua because that's our Rabbi on the table, right? But the last lashon you find, the Shin Gimel, in Sivkatin Pei, Beis over here. So Mishbura says now, he's talking over here about, you all know that it says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu was boina Chava, Vayiven es Hatzela. Vayiven es Hatzela, he brought Chava to Adam Arishan. So the Gemara says, you see that it's called the lashon of boina. What did Hashem boina? So first of all, the Gemara learns is binyan ba'adam. This is Deraisa, Derabana, and all these things we'll talk about. But the Gemara says, what was he boina? So it says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a braid for Chava. That's what it says. So he writes like this. So the pasuk says, the Shulchan Aruch says, Asa lekloya ha'isha sayra b'Shabbos. She's not allowed to make a braid on Shabbos. Not going to make a braid because that's a binyan. That's a binyan. You're not allowed to make a braid on Shabbos. I don't know if this is deraisa, derabana, whatever, but right now it has a shame binyan. I'm not interested now in the case that we're talking about. I'm interested in the parameters that come out that this thing is called boina and the rules that are going to come out of it. But that's an example of binyan. You don't have to deal with the Gemara as an example of cheese. The Gemara says that when you take cheese and you curdle it on Shabbos and you make it into cheese, which everybody here could do. All you have to do is you take yogurt. Yogurt is non-cultured, and we all use all those words. And you take it and you put it inside like an undershirt, or a cheesecloth. What? I'm sorry. Rabbi Chodi tells us that if you put it inside his sock, so then the liquid comes through. The liquid comes through, and that's whey. Like the medrash, curds and whey, right? So the what's left is cheese. If you do that on Shabbos, that's called megabein. Megabein is boina, according to some. Some say it's boirer because it separates the liquid, and sometimes you're over on boina. Megabein is boina. I'm saying boina is a lot of boinas out there because you built the cheese. It wasn't when you built the cheese. I feel this is going to be a whole shy that I'll make an ice cube on Shabbos. But we'll see, this is like a binyan. A lot of the binyanim are we have a tolda, it's a Kabbalah from Chazal, but this is also Kabbalah. So right now, I'm not interested in the case. I'm just interested in the rules that are coming out when Chazal called this thing baina. Just, bear with it. Also, the Klaya Yisha Sayr B'Shabbos, the Loila Hater Kliyasa, and she's not allowed to undo her braid. She's not allowed to, let's say she wants to make a braid in a shaitel. Is that baina? So the person can say that might not be baina. That might be oirig. What's oirig? Oyrig was the last malacha that we learned in Slanim, right? The last malacha right before Corona, right before the whole COVID started. It was the last, we did the Oyrig on that day, you don't remember? Then we did Pesach one year, what? Oyrig was the last malacha. We did 6 malachas on that day, all those weaving malachas. So Oyrig is when you take a shaitel. The normal case of Oyrig is like a beged and whatever, who's doing Oyrig on Shabbos. You could have an Oyrig on Shabbos. Let's say you have like a string that's in your tie, and it's like, the tie like this. You have to go like that, right? Because it's like one of those strings that's doing all types of weird things, right? You pull it down and you put it into its place. That could be told of Oyrig. I don't want to go into, I'd say that might. Anyways, but Al Kapanim. But Oyrig, a classic case of Oyrig for us, is the shaitel. Shaitel's a beged. A shaitel's a beged. So male, if you Oyrig, you might be over on Oyrig. If you undo it, you might be over on Portseya. undoing an ariga. But that's not our malacha right now. But we're talking about when it's on the adam, when it's on the gufa adam, when you're making a braid, that's boina. That's a Kabbalah. Don't try to understand it right now. It's a Kabbalah from Chazal, that when you make a braid on Shabbos, so that you're over on boina. Okay, that's I just want the case. So comes again in the Mishnah Berurah, and he says, that's domi lebinyan. Kedadashinan, they learned that. Vayivan Hashem lekim esat tzela. Hashem built the tzela. Melamed shekala kodesh baruch hu lechava ve'evil adam. That the Eilik Bashefer was difficult ve'evil adam. V'shekain the karche ayam koyrin the kliyasa b'niyasa. And he brings a raya from the pasuk, right? That's what it is. No, stamim. Sometimes it takes them a long time to get ready and get dressed and shaitels and all these things, right? So kasha. Kodesh baruch hu had to help her, right? These things take time, so she doesn't have the Eilik Bashefer to help her. So it takes time. So avala kalea nimen betalish. If you do this on a shaitel, talish meaning something is not attached to her body, so then chayiv mishum oirig. Then you chayiv out oirig. Kemoish kasav harambam. V'hacha b'seir loichash ariga because mechuber l'roishai. Okay, adkan. That's what we want. Now he goes on. He says like this. He writes these words. He says, "Ve'ein soifay l'skayim shoymedes l'stiro." What's this? So in Shartzi and Sivkot and Samach over here, Mishnah Berurah says words. I want to read these words. He says these words. It's ein soifay l'skayim. Listen what he writes here. He says, "Ratz loymar in Perek Habayim bein and dafka shetei melecha miskayemes." And we find that by Ksiva. He brings this down. He discusses what's it called miskayim. Hainu ein miskayim klal afilu al yoyim hashabbos. So Mishnah Berurah says, it's a little bit of a difficult Mishnah Berurah here, but Mishnah Berurah calls over here, he's donning our case there. Let me see which part I have to read. 1 second. Here. He calls it b'mechuber b'kalas ser per nachris, right? After ein b'zeh mishum boina, it's also Eirik. It says a shaitel, like we just said. V'aftim neima de ein soif l'skayim. Even if you say it's not soif l'skayim, akopanim midrabanan, it's aser. He says, let's say on a shaitel, a lady makes a braid on a shaitel. So he says, well, it's not chayiv. Why? He writes the words because it's ein soif l'skayim. Akopanim, it's still midrabanan aser. What's this? Ein soif l'skayim. He's talking bein on a braid on your hair and bein on the braid on your shaitel. The braid on the shaitel, the nidon is oirig. Again, I'm not interested. I'm interested more in the nafkamina. The braid on your hair is oirig. On the shaitel is oirig. The braid on your hair is boina. That's also gomer on Shabbos for a lady to make a braid. The end. Right? Why is it also? Right? Maybe it's asa deraisa. If she makes a braid and it's going to be forever, it should be asa deraisa. So Mishnah Berurah writes these words. He writes, excuse me, ein seifel l'skayim. Even if you say it's ein seifel l'skayim, why is it ein seifel l'skayim? What? Sorry? What does it mean? It comes out. Does he mean it comes out on its own, or you're going to take it out? Shmur sounds like ein seifel l'skayim. What does it mean here? It means what? My problem is in the Shartzian. I wasn't sure. I saw the Avnei Nezer learns, the Avnei Nezer at Reshit Aleph learns that it's something because you're going to for sure take it out. I also don't think he's lash like that. He compares it to May Paris, right? I also thought so. The Mishnah Berurah doesn't sound like that. The Mishnah Berurah sounds like it's not going to come out. The Mishnah Berurah sounds like it's going to come out on its own. I know, which is a little bit, what? Why not? Someone told me that you have like in all these third world countries, they have like hair that they do these braids and that's not ever. What? I don't think I think it's because they don't use shampoo. I'm right? What? Sorry? But the beard? What can't be undone? What happens if you make? I mean, it's a little bit of agov from the Shiur. What happens if you make dreadlocks on Shabbos? What? What is it? What is it? It's like braids. And they're doing it forever, right? What? Sorry? No, that's because they die of drug overdose. I'm saying, but the Metzias, that's called it lasts forever. That's not what do you mean? No, first of all, there's no way they can get it out. They have to just cut off their whole head, hair. I'm right, no? Davi seems to know, and Davi says that. No, but I think like you, Rabbi Khan, I think it's much a little bit like you. Let me read it one more time. But let's finish the share like this. But oh my goodness, what happened? Oh, it's like I'm a shoulder. What happened? Why do you have information about dreadlocks? What do you got? Huh? Let me see. Let's read it one more time. Everybody say. Read it one more time. But Dami Labinyan, Milamet Shekol HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Aval Kalei Nimen Chai Mishum Oirig, Halachos of Bishul, Hu Mechuber, Ein Ve'oid, Ein Seifel Liskayim, Shomedes Listira. What does that line mean? It's a Medes Listira. Means could probably, maybe I'm reading it wrong. Maybe it just means like Davnei Nezer, because you're going to, for sure, not leave it like that. That's tremendous nafkamina. Let's say you want to make dreadlocks on Shabbos, right? It's not, what? Yeah, but the Chassidic guys, they go to the mikveh every day, so they're not going to leave it like that. And they also don't make braids, you know, what? They just roll. What? No, see. Tell me, we need him. Tell him. Ask him. No, all right. No, I think they don't make braids, right? They just roll. No, huh? Right, but they take it out. They got to go to the mikveh. What? I don't think they braid. This is fake news. Huh? Listen to the chart, see, everybody. He compares it, Rabbi Yisai, it's very difficult. The Mishabur on the bottom compares it in the chart, see, he compares it to May Paris. And May Paris is an example of something that goes around on its own. He says, Mishum she'eino miskayim klal, afila yom Shabbos. He's comparing the two. I'm a little bit navoich about this, I must admit. Now, I thought I was going to tell you there's another gather over here of Eino Miskayim. And this, I'm not sure what this is. Mishpura seems to maybe be learning it comes out on its own. All right, I have to think about this. I just want to end with one thing, one shaila. Rabbi Rosenberg asked me yesterday, Abby asked me, I started the share with you and I'm ending the share with you. You asked me about the Shinsky, but I realized like all over the place they have this. They have these bricks. All over the place you have this. That's it. Now you have the Akdama. Tomorrow we start from the Sifim and whatever. But he asked me like this. He asked me like, you have these bricks. He said there's one by Dushinsky. There's like a brick there that you go up on that brick onto what? Onto the sidewalk or something, right? And you have this like all over the place, especially in Eretz Yisrael. America is not going to go, not going to go, right? But in the 5 towns, it's probably illegal, right? But they have, also, I saw today, they have like in front of the Makolet, this thing must have been there for 50 years. They have like this, they like made a ramp so that the guy could bring up his, the cart. But what's the ramp made of? It's homemade, yeah. No, it's like real homemade. No, it's made of that thing, that with the truck comes with the fork and the legs and the, No, but it's made of that thing, with the thing. What the thing? No, the wood one. What's it called? Not the crate itself, but the pallet. The pallet, right? The what? Yeah, video. Yeah, the fuel. Thank you. That's exactly what I was thinking. Right? So they have one there, and they like bent it a little bit. They like bent it a little bit. That thing must have been. So I asked the guy in the Makola today, right? I asked him, like, his name is Chamamel. I said, Chamamel, kama zman ze nimtza po? He says, ani nimtza po 7 shanim ze lefnei hazman sheli. It's before his time. It's before the state. It's mamish, like Ben Gurion brought this over. It's mamish. I think he's been there for 7 years. What is that? Is that boina b'karka? Something that you're putting there and it's going to be there for like ever? And what? I don't know. What? Why is it different than what? There's a difference. What? That's a shayla. Zidan is that now this is what they made something to be it's I don't know, it's a feldik maisa. You'll have something. No, it could be like Negea. You have something. Where could be Negea? You could do. Well, the actual sugi of Delis and all that will do tomorrow. You can move and shop. And like I said yesterday, some thinks he's going to trip on it or whatever. People are going to trip. So without thinking, he just like pushes it back over there to be in that place. That might be a boina deraisa. Forget muksa. It's moving it with its foot because it's muksa, right? That might be a boina deraisa. If he's putting something in a place where it's going to remain and it's normal to be there, and at least in Eretz Yisrael, where these things are normal. I don't know. Maybe in Chutz La'aretz it's not so normal, so you don't see any oneness. Huh? I think it stays there. I think his mom stated they made this like thing. This like goes up on it, right? And that's how they get. That's their ramp, Sheva Shanim. That's what I told him like since last Shemitah, okay? Like since the Shemitah. Okay, all right. We'll continue tomorrow. Rabbi Sai, Rabbi Sai. Wait, Rabbi Sai. I think it's important. Whoever has something that they could write. So now he should write it, and we'll give it to his wife. Whoever has the Duvi, you sent out the email. They can't big Duvi at gmail.com. No, whoever has a letter that can write to give her some nice story or something like that. What? Bunch of doors. Let me say goodbye to these guys 1 minute. Bye, guys. Bye, guys. Okay, let's say goodbye to all of them. Hi, Danny, you okay? We got nervous today. I got nervous.
I'm not used to Shiur 10 to 9 in the morning.